Hello, everyone. My name is James Choi, and I'm a dental technician who was one of the main developers of a unique material, which I would like to introduce you today. And hopefully, I could give you a glimpse of what is possible with this material using today's technology in our dental profession. Now, before I start, I would like to thank Dental Online Conference for giving me the opportunity to share some of my journey with you all today as an introduction of a system. So the name of the system is called Miyo Liquid Ceramics. Why is it called a liquid ceramic? It's because our concept in development of this material was to have really the best parts of the traditional ceramic system, which is the ability to layer depth in one application, and the best part of the stain systems, which is the ability to see before firing what you will get after it's fired. And to combine the best parts of these two worlds into one very unique system and approach was our goal. So now we can all agree that the technology in our profession has evolved and advanced so much for the past several years. And when you look at this slide, you can clearly see the evolution of today's zirconia when you see this photo. I'm talking about the transmission of light. There's several key dynamic light dynamics that we have to control, but transmission of light is one of those key dynamics that we have to understand. And when you look at this comparison between, really the aesthetically proven lithium disilicate on the right versus today's translucent zirconia on the left, the light transmission is quite similar. So now when you look at this case, this is a quite interesting case that we documented several years ago. The interesting fact about this case is the fact that it's exactly the same file. It's exactly the same form. And only thing that's different is the translucency of the material. The one that you see on the left is the one of the first generations of zirconias, which we used to call it the white gold. We thought it was a replacement of a gold restoration at that time. But when you look at the right side, it's quite interesting because now, because of the light transmission, we are able to get to nature as close as possible, especially in that posterior region. And this is the proof to that. So this opened our eyes to have an imagination of possibility in the anterior region. So the system is called Miyo, and it stands for Make It Your Own. And the reason for that is because we did not want to set an exact protocol that you must follow to get successful results. We wanted the system to be very free. We wanted the system to be able to adapt to every level of dental technicians or dental professionals who's using this system. So Miyo's system is quite organized, very similar like the traditional ceramic systems, which means there are opaque colors, there are semi-translucent colors, and there are high translucent colors. And the ability to apply all the colors that you need all at the same time, which is a very unique character of this material. So I would like to show you an example of everyday experience that we go through as a dental technician. So if you look at the box on the left, there are 3 shade tabs, and I purposely made these shade tabs skipping a shade in between. So there's an OM2, there is an A1, and there is an A3. With the translucent A color in the Miyo system, with just one color, you are able to match OM2 to an A3 or an A4. So if you could take a look, these are shade tabs. So these are not fired. The beauty of the Miyo system is whatever you see before you fire, you will get that after it's fired. So there are no guessing games. So when you look at this small zoomed in box, you could see that I was able to match an OM2 as a starting point to an A3. Okay, So with one color, we are able to shift in many shades, and we wanted to make the system so that it's very adaptive to everyday procedures that we are working with. So when you look at a crown right here, the crown that you see on the left side is a multi-layer crown that I started off. And with one firing, with two color applications, which is translucent A and a little bit of smoke, which I will introduce to you in the next slide, is the violet color that we see in the incisal region to create that translucent appearance of our restoration. So with one firing, I was able to get a glaze and hit the target that I needed to get to. So of course, I cannot, talk about uh, the dropping the value. So like I said on the previous slide, with translucent smoke and different colors, with all in one application, you could create the chroma that you are looking for. You could drop the value the way you want. In this case, I created this translucent band in between, in the middle of the crown with one firing. So this is one of my favorite, actually my definite favorite color in the entire system, including Miyo white system and Miyo pink system. And this color is called lumen. The beauty of lumen, let's for example say everyday dentistry, everyday lab experience. I have a case that needs to get out within the 15 minutes or 30 minutes, let's say. I get a last minute phone call from the dental office and say, the dentist tells me, hey, James, I made a mistake. I gave you the wrong shade. I don't want the shade to be A1. I want the shade to be brighter than A1, one shade brighter than A1. OM3, let's for example say. And again, when you look at this box on the left, I purposely positioned the shade tabs in this position so that I could demonstrate that this is quite possible to do. So with lumen application, you are able to raise value without adding opacity. So lumen is really like, to make it very simple, it's really like a cloud. When we look at a cloud from far away, it looks like an object. It's high value. But we all know when we get close, all it is, it's vapor, and it's translucent, it's transparent. The only reason why it looks like a high value or an object from far away is because it's scattering light, and it's creating that optical illusion. So lumen is exactly that. So when you see this crown on the left side, let's say this is a finished crown, and I have to shift in value and raise brightness in value, and I have no time. Typically in the past, what we had to do was we had to sandblast everything off, and then we had to reapply, or we had to remake the entire crown to shift that shade. But with lumen, this is quite possible. So I apply lumen right on that body 1/3 area, like you see in this box. And then once I fired, I get, that bump of the value. So after we created the first lumen, the original lumen, we felt the need that we could add another option, another weapon to our arsenal. And with Lumen Plus, which is a much more intense lumen effect to our restoration. So what you see on the crown on the left side is a finished restoration, and on the right side is a shade tab. So now there is many applications out there that does digital measurements, so that eliminates a little bit of our optical illusions. And when I measure these two crowns in this exact same point, you could see the L value. L is the value. So you could see the L value being quite similar. So my target now, my goal now is to raise the value with one more firing. So with Lumen Plus, after one firing, I was able to raise uh, about 4.5 in L value, which means it's above one full shade. Okay, so just to show you a comparison with the shade tab in the middle and a big shift, it's one of my favorite, the favorite color in the entire system, and there is no color and no material like this Lumen and Lumen Plus. And with the combination, we are able to control the intensity of Lumen effect. So this is, for me, a lifesaver. So the beauty of the Miyo system is truly the fact that whatever we see before we fire is we get exactly that after it's fired. So when you look at the box in the middle, the before fire, that's about 15 to 20 colors on one crown. Everything is applied wet, all at the same time. And you could see that the details of all the effects that I was able to create, once I'm satisfied, I fire that. And since all Miyo material are self-glazing, I get the same effect. Whatever I saw before I fired, I get exactly that. And at the same time, I get a glaze out of it. So the big photo on the left side is after the structure fire. So what was the biggest downfall of monolithic restorations in the past before Miyo? It's the fact that we cannot control the surface texture. When we apply all the colors and create all the saturation of color into our likings, we tend to completely lose control of our surface texture. So we created a material called structure. And structure is not to replace your enamel or to create depth. All the depth and effects and your final appearance should be applied with the Miyo colors. And once you're satisfied with the Miyo colors, you fire that, get a glaze out of it. And then once you get that into that position, you could make it even more advanced by creating and controlling the surface texture, which will control the key light dynamics that we have to control in dentistry, and create a lifelike, traditional ceramic-like monolithic restoration like you see on the left side. So just to go a little bit deeper into the structure material. So structure material is a pure ceramic material that it's a paste material that you will apply very thin. So just to create the surface texture, it's not really designed to create depth and to replace your enamel. You can add contacts with it. You can shift a little bit of the form, but it's mainly designed to create the surface texture and control that in an effective manner. So all the texture that you see on this slide is done with the brush. So like I said, every material in the Miyo system is self-glazing. So whatever texture that you see here, this is prior to firing. And once you have a calibrated, firing cycle for the structure, once you fire that, you keep all the texture at the same time you get a glaze out of it. So now the evolution of the monolithic restorations and the evolution of aesthetic dentistry is present. So whatever you see, all the texture, once you fired, you keep the texture and get a glaze out of it. So structure, there are 5 structures in the entire system. When I say entire system, it's meaning Miyo white system and the Miyo pink system. When I say Miyo white system, it's designed for the teeth, and the Miyo pink system is really designed for the tissue. So with 2 systems combined, there are 5 structures. And these tabs are measured at 0.1 millimeter, So it's quite thin. So the one that you see on the far left is the window. It's transparent, 100% transparent, like you see there. The enamel, which is my favorite, it scatters light, but it will not really shift your final color. It scatters light. It creates that extra little, illusion of depth. Okay, so my favorite is the enamel structure. And one of my favorite, my real go-to for pink structure to create that stippling that we need, that we see in nature, is orchid. And there are frost if we need to bump up the value a little bit, or if we need to go deeper in red, rouge structure will be the choice that I would make. So of course, all this theory is all, it sounds great, all is nice, but we had to verify um, that this system and this concept works in our clinical situation. So we had a target shade that you see on the lower anterior. That was our target shade, and we were restoring the four anteriors from lateral to lateral. We made a quite interesting comparison with the traditional ceramic and the monolithic restorations with the Miyo colors and one structure. And at that time, when we had this case going, we had about 5 colors and one structure. So this is where I started off. At high translucent white zirconia. And the reason for the white zirconia is to keep a little bit of that value to begin with. This is one color application, and then this is the color application on all 4 anteriors. And then this is fired with the structure, which controlled a complete control of surface texture. And this is finished restoration on the model. This is where I started off. Finished, and in the patient's mouth. Now, the traditional ceramic technique, we used about 7 to 9 enamel layers. We applied Miyo colors as an internal effect. And then the ceramic, this is also in the patient's mouth. And side by side, the monolithic is on the left and the ceramic is on the right. The monolithic, to be honest, my working time was about less than 15 minutes. And the ceramics, we all kind of have an idea how long that would take. About 3-4 hours with this type of restoration, which was a minimal cutback on the facial, right? So here is cheek retracted. Don't mind the tissue too much. This was during the try-in, but you could quite see the huge potential, and it's proven clinically that this absolutely works. So Miyo Pink system is set up quite similar to the Miyo White system. There are the translucent colors and there are some opaque colors as well. So I'm gonna quickly go over what's possible in a clinical situation. Whatever your underlying material is, whether that's opaque zirconia, the 3Y zirconia, the 5Y zirconia, and the 4Y zirconia that's actually going to be released all over the world very shortly, whatever the underlying material you're using, Miyo will make that material come to life. If you use it correctly or the way you like to use, it does not matter. So this is where I started off directly after it's centered. This is finished with Miyo colors, fired twice. You can see that I have a surface glaze everywhere and not too much of control of the surface texture. You can see the reflection on that lateral. And this is finished with the Miyo structure application on teeth and tissue at the same time. Okay. And this is intraoral photo. You could see that the lower anteriors, canine to canine, we had to match the natural teeth. And you could see that the fact that I started off with an opaque zirconia, but I was able to match nature. Okay, so the potential, and it's proven that we have evolved as a technician now, and the technology has definitely met our system the way we envisioned. So people ask me quite a lot about, hey James, it looks like you applied a lot of color. How much do we have to cut back? You do not have to cut back at all. And you can see that here. This is directly after it's centered. There's no surface texture. I create my underlying material with absolutely no surface texture so that I could control the surface texture manually with my hands, with the help of the Miyo system and the structure material. So this is directly after it's finished. You could see that ideal surface texture, the intensity of colors, the transmission of light, the movement of light is quite present in this restoration. So this is a cross section of that same piece. And as you can see, the thickness is virtually none. So the thickest area in this material, in this slide, is the incisor region. This is combining about 16 to 20 colors underneath and one structure on top. The thickness that you see with your eyes in this slide is actually the structure only. Okay. So next, I want to show you a quick time lapse of the whole evolution from where I started off to how I finished. Okay, so you can see that I usually start off in between the teeth first. I apply the glaze, I apply all the colors necessary, I move on to the gingiva. Typically use 3 colors on the gingiva to create that natural appearance, and the structure application to finish off. All the texture that you need to create, I create with a brush. Once I fire that, I am done, and the case can be sent out the door. I want you guys, this is just an introduction of the system, and I hope that I was able to deliver the message and deliver the possibilities, and hopefully opened your eyes a little bit and to the technology, the advancement of technology, and the advancement of materials with the Miyo liquid ceramic system, and what we can take advantage of today's dental profession with all these nice, absolutely nice zirconias all over the world available to every one of us. With the Miyo system, we are able to get close to nature as close as possible without all the time spent and the effort spent as well. And I hope you guys enjoyed the short presentation, and I hope to see you guys during the live webinar and some courses in the future. Thank you so much for your attention during this time. You could also find me on all social media platforms like the Facebooks and the Instagram, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Have a great day.